James Trotter is a young English boy who had dreams of going to New York City with his parents. Unfortunately, they were killed by a mysterious rhinoceros in the sky. He is forced to live in servitude with his wicked aunts, Spiker and Sponge, on a desolate island. There he meets a mysterious man who tells him that his dreams are not far behind, giving him a mysterious bag of weird creatures he expects him to eat. The mysterious creatures in the bag spring out and attach themselves to a tree, which sprouts a gigantic peach. James, running away from his aunts, finds a pathway inside of the peach, crawls in it, and completely changes who he is, along with several insects now as big as him. They all go on an adventure to finally go to his destined place. James and the Giant Peach is a family-friendly film that touches on the subjects of friendship, family, travel, and most importantly, facing fears. As the timid, scared James constantly has to deal with issues, but somehow is able to power through it despite his own fears. It raises the question, how do you gain courage? At the beginning of the story, we see happier times, joy that James rarely gets to experience throughout the rest of the story. Playing with his family out in the beach, reflecting on the coulds and woulds and wills of what could possibly happen. Going to a place called New York City, only looking at pamphlets and imagining what it would look like in the sky. These solemn memories will play a big factor into the story and will be the happy place that James constantly goes to in his mind and imagination that will constantly allow him to handle the harshness of the world around him. But unfortunately, just like his parents, mysteriously having everything taken from him, so too does James get put into darkness. His aunts Spiker and Sponge clearly do not want him around. See him nothing more than a servant to allow him to burden them with his mere existence, his life being nothing more than just something that they can toy with and use at their whim, thriving through laziness and feeling that they're owed by the world around them. James, however, tries to find the goodness in things. When Spiker and Sponge come across a spider, James does not see it as a disgusting, scary, horrible thing, but as a thing that deserves light, love, and opportunity, caring for it and taking it with him into his room, his only sense of solidarity in a world so cruel to him. Reflecting on missing his parents, talking to the spider as if it's his only friend, because it is. James, wandering around the grounds at night, stumbles across a mysterious man who offers him the opportunity for a better life, punching a hole through the wall and seeing the actual New York City skyline, a possibility for a future. And all this man asks in return is for James to trust him, a trust that James doesn't really understand or may not even recognize and may not even feel. He offers him a mysterious bag of crocodile tongues that will grant magic powers to anyone or anything that eats them. This bag is James's chance for a better life. Unfortunately for James, much like many of the things in his life, they stumble out of his hand, going into the ground, going into the tree, and forming a gigantic peach. The larger and brighter the peach grows, the more it entices James into an opportunity for something. But unfortunately, it also shows an opportunity for Spiker and Sponge to make a profit. And so they put up a fencing around it so James and no one else is tempted to see it unless they pay. James, having had absolutely enough, with the one chance being taken away from him, goes to see the peach, and a mysterious hole forms, allowing him to climb inside as magic covers his body and changes James into a different form than he'd ever been. Along with him, he finds these other disturbing, mysterious creatures that were formerly bugs, now the size of him and able to fully articulate and talk. James realizes as he hears Spiker and Sponge, this is the opportunity he's been waiting for. This is their chance to escape. And so, they sever off of the tree branch and roll out into the ocean. James wants them to go to New York City, his greatest dream, finally within grasp. As James gets to know the rest of the creatures, we see that they're all different dynamics. Ladybug is a nice, caring, nurturing mother figure that James has never really gotten to know. Same with Miss Spider. She also has a loving, caring, protective nature that James always wished he had, and is also reflectant on how he was to her when she was normally just a spider. Mr. Grasshopper is more refined and more intelligent and more regal. Mr. Centipede being the fun, rambunctious adventurer, and Mr. Earthworm, much like James, being afraid of everything. Each of these creatures being a reflection of James' wants, needs, and ours. This allows him to seek out and have adventures. Getting attacked by a mechanical shark, having to fight underwater ghosts, and just taking it all in stride so long as he has people around him and he's able to face his fears. But soon, he'll face the ultimate test. After all of their adventures, James, almost nervous to go to New York City, sees the city skyline, how beautiful, how bright, and how inviting it is. A feeling of warmth and glow comes over him. But he then soon sees his fear come to fruition, as the very rhino that took his parents is charging towards the peach, with Mr. Earthworm, the most afraid of all, spouting to him the words his parents said, to look at it from another way. And James yells at the rhinoceros saying he's not afraid, it's just a big pile of puff and smoke, as the rhino strikes at the peach with lightning, sending everyone, including James, tumbling down. James, being on top of the peach, saying he needs to be in New York City, he wants to see the Empire State Building, and telling him that's where he is, with the peach being revealed on top of the Empire State Building. As the crane lifts the giant peach down, but as James comes down, his evil aunts arrive, having driven through the water just to get back at James. He then confronts them with no fear in his heart, only courage to prop him up, reflecting on everything he said. Tells them how he flew all over the world on a giant peach with his friends, not knowing what happened to his friends. Spiker and Sponge hating that their frail and disgusting image is revealed to the world. Take axes to try to end James, but just as they start, James's friends all arrive to terrify Spiker and Sponge, with Miss Spider wrapping them up in her spider web and leaving them for the police. And so the story ends with James finally home in Central Park, living in the pit of the peach as a house with all of his new family, telling the story of his adventures, and finally being rewarded for his courage, love, and care. So, how do you gain courage? If we look at the story of James and the Giant Peach, you have a young boy who has everything taken away from him. His greatest fears were realized, from loss of love, to mistreatment, to even the preposterous. All of these fears thrust him into a perspective that everything is against him. But despite all of that, James still tries to see the goodness in things. Where others see a disgusting bug, he sees an inviting opportunity for love. Where others would see just some pamphlet in his pocket, he sees an opportunity for future. Where others see a giant fruit, James sees a chance, a possibility, an opportunity. But ultimately, I believe that when you really want to find courage, much like the advice that James's parents gave, you need to see the world in a different perspective. Look at it in a new way. James does this throughout the entire story, and it allows him to keep moving forward. Despite everything being against him, he did achieve his dreams. He ended up in New York City. He ended up with a family who loves him. He ended up in a home. And he ended up happy. Because to truly find courage, you need to be able to accept and see things from every perspective possible, not just from fear, but from love, care, and opportunity. Because if you can do that, it won't matter how scary your fear is. All that will matter is how full your heart can be. But in the end, these aren't answers. They're hypotheticals.
No. There it is. That little pink plus sign is so unholy.
That ain't no Etch-a-Sketch. This is one doodle that can't be undid, Holmes Gillett.
Boy, I thought you were the kind of girl who knew when to say when.
I don't really know what kind of girl I am.